In this video, we'll be discussing John Locke and his views on property. To begin with, we'll be looking at the state of nature. This is the state that people existed in before governments were established. Natural resources in the state were abundant, but ultimately underutilized. Locke looked at people in this state as being naturally reasonable and rational. In this state, there is no formal way to protect one's property, protect one's life, and ultimately function as a society. Next, we'll look at Locke's perspective on the Earth. Locke viewed the Earth as a gift to mankind, given to men for the support and comfort of their being. In this respect, he viewed it as belonging to mankind in common. This common ownership, however, gives way to a problem. Who gets to own and use what? And what must an individual do in order to own something, to take something from the collective and own it themselves, privately? This brings us to the foundation of property. Locke looked at the individual as the foundation of all property rights. Each individual has property in his own person, and everyone has exclusive ownership rights to themselves and no others. This ownership right would then have to extend out to the fruits of that individual's labor. If one is willing to utilize their time and energy to accomplish a goal, the fruit of that labor should be rewarded to the person who invests the time and energy. This brings us to the concept of private property. When one mixes their labor with something from nature, that action then grants them ownership of whatever they produce. This is the only logical way one can justifiably lay claim to anything. It is the first gathering, the action of taking something out of the state of nature, that makes it an own good. If not for this action, it would remain unclaimed or unused, and ultimately be a waste of the gifts the earth has given us. From the common earth to a private good. If the earth belongs to everyone, how could one person claim anything belongs to them? Imagine if all people had to agree to use any given natural resource. If such consent as that was necessary, man had starved, notwithstanding the plenty God had given him. When you use your labor to take something from the state of nature, it does not become everyone's property. For example, if you are hungry and you pick an apple, that apple does not have to be divided 7 billion ways. If you utilize your time and energy to pick the apple, then you should be the one that owns it, and you should get to choose what you do with it, whether or not you eat it or give it away. This, of course, only applies as long as you have not stolen the apple from somebody else. On the same token, there are limits of ownership. There are natural limits to how much one can claim for themselves. One cannot simply take and take from the state of nature. The limit is that which one can use without letting the goods be destroyed or spoil. To claim more than you can use is wasteful and against the law of nature. Even if you are able to pick 50 apples, if you don't have a way to use 50 apples or give 50 apples away, then you'll be wasting them, and it is better to leave them to somebody else who can find use for them than to pick them and to waste them. This very same concept applies to the ownership of land. Locke views the limits to personal property as that which one can effectively use. One can own as much land as a man tills, plants, and improves. Land should not always remain common and uncultivated. He gave it to the use of the industrious and the rational, meaning that we should claim the land in nature, provided we can use it in a way that is productive. If we can take an empty field and turn it into a farm field, or build a factory on it, then it should be done. Leaving land unused and unclaimed is a waste of the gifts we have been given, and ultimately, in Locke's view, an affront to God. That concludes this video. Thank you.